Last night's game was interesting to say the least. But thank you for joining me today on the podcast, episode number 77 of Sports OV Topics. Hope everyone's being safe, having a good time for a good weekend. But week of the 13 for the NFL is now in the books, along with championship weekend of college football is over, and we had some significant outcomes leading now to the finals, or the final placement of the college football playoff, which is now set for December 31st. And we'll also go over UFC 269, which is a Saturday. So, stuff to talk about here on the podcast today, but might as well go over first things first. College football. So, a interesting weekend for championship weekend. So, all the championship games start off with Friday night. Pac-12, Utah steamrolled over Oregon to win the Pac-12 38-10. They, for the second time this season, pretty much Utah has had Oregon's number. So, hats off to them. They win the Pac-12. Then on Saturday, to start the action, for the Big 12, Oklahoma State, who is ranked number 5, had a pretty much good chance if they won this game against Baylor, number 10, who had an outside chance, but still a chance to make the college football playoff if everything goes right. But it almost peered away from Baylor. Took a 21-3 lead, but they survived. Goal line stand in the fourth quarter and peered away 21-16. Baylor wins the Big 12, ends Oklahoma State's playoff chances. Then we get to arguably, or undoubtedly per se, the most significant game of the college football playoff on Saturday, which was Alabama, who was then ranked 3, against the number 1 then ranked Georgia. And Alabama got the better of Georgia here in the SEC Championship. Georgia, undefeated coming into this. They had the number 1 ranked defense coming into this. But at some point, your offense needs to balance out the defense. And Bryce Young had a hell of a day as well, cementing himself as a finalist for the Heisman next month. Georgia, they moved the ball well. They were up 10-0, but over time their offense fizzled out, and you can't afford to fizzle out against Bama in this high-flying offense. And they had mistakes, the interception, the pick six, made the scoreboard look much different. You know, if they went for field goals and took care of the ball, it would make it very interesting at the end, but ultimately, Bama pulled away. Cincinnati, they took care of Houston, who was riding in hot into this game. Cincinnati won 35-20, win the American Conference Championship. They cementing themselves in the college football playoff. And then the cream of the crop on Saturday night, Michigan, 2 ranked Michigan faced number 13 ranked Iowa for the Big Ten. And Iowa moved the ball well to start the game, but they couldn't punch in. And eventually, Michigan, they were up 14-3 and never surrendered that lead, 42-3 ultimately, and putting that ultimate nail after a big win over Ohio State. They claim to the college football playoff 42-3 with a Big Ten championship over Iowa. So yeah, now it's official. On December 31st, it'll be number 1 ranked Bama versus number 4 Cincinnati. And number 2 ranked Michigan will face now number 3 Georgia in the semifinals, and obviously the winners will face each other in the college football national championship next month. I could tell, and also I must say, because it was a pretty entertaining game for most of it. Pittsburgh, they beat Wake Forest. 2 games I had bigger hopes for, but Pittsburgh won 42-21 in the ACC championship. Also weird seeing someone else besides Clemson winning the ACC, but they got it done. Kenny Pickett as well, a Heisman finalist. So it'll be CJ Stroud of Ohio State, Aiden Hutchinson of Michigan, Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh, and Bryce Young of Bama, finalists for the Heisman this year. Interesting. Now back to the seeding of the college football playoff. I mean, I understand how it can be controversial to some because, Gus Johnson said best during the Big Ten title game that it kind of sounds biased if Bama leapfrog Michigan and ultimately we do not get Alabama versus Georgia rematch to start the college football playoff, but it is what it is. This committee has power and it is what it is. But Bama for Cincinnati. Interesting. Bama is the machine. Bama has been the machine for over a decade with Nick Saban at the helm. And it just keeps rolling. Cincinnati, They did really well last year, coming up short. This year, they go undefeated. Luke Fickell, head coach. Desmond Ridder has had a solid year. You know, I'm sure many probably expect a double-digit win for Bama. Cincinnati, I think can make it tough. They can make it tough. I would just say don't sleep on them. Um, but it will be an interesting feat to see Bama versus Cincinnati in the semifinals. And then a doozy, Michigan versus Georgia. You know, unlike the other matchup, we have a team that is really ascended or has really ascended versus a team that's now reeling. What change a few days makes? Georgia, a couple days ago, they were ranked number one, best defense in the country. You know, their offense wasn't a juggernaut, but it was getting the job done. And they didn't get the job done against Bama. And they're number 3 facing number 2 Michigan, who, off to great wins over Ohio State and, Iowa. Really could say they should have beaten Michigan State, but that's neither here or there. They let the lead. Kenneth Walker, I must say, I'm surprised he's not a finalist for the Heisman, but it is what it is. But that's a doozy. Michigan now versus Georgia. You kind of thought this could be the national title game, but one of these teams is going to fall short of the national title game. I would say I think everyone wants to see the committee wants Bama, Georgia rematch. The world would love Michigan for Cincinnati, but we wouldn't mind Michigan and Alabama. That would be a fun test as well. So, gonna be an interesting Final Four with weeks to come. Now let's get to NFL Week 13. So, another crazy week. Luckily, another good week of picks. 11-3 this week for picks. So, another solid week of picks out there. Some of the games were ugly, but as we got to the day of Sunday, the games overtime came more enjoyable. But let's start off with Thursday. Now we're getting into December football. And we saw it already with what last night. Crazy weather football, which we love to see. So, Thursday night started week 13. Cowboys going to New Orleans. They won 27-17. You know, Dallas, both teams needed this win. Both were reeling a bit based on how they looked on Thanksgiving. And New Orleans lost 4 straight. Coming in this, they're the Bears of last year. The Bears had a hot start to the season and then they faltered, but they still managed to make the playoffs. I'm not sure if New Orleans, because they're battered with injuries, I'm just not sure if they'll have the same result as the Bears did. Which coincidentally, the Saints welcomed the Bears in a wild card round earlier this year. But Cowboys won 27-17. Cowboys, it wasn't pretty. Zeke, he's not 100%. Pollard had the bulk of carries and bulk of production. Dak had a decent night, but it was mostly an opportunistic offense. The Saints, starting Taysom Hill, he had some really good runs, but especially after banging his finger off, I believe DeMarcus Lawrence or Dorrance Armstrong, I'm not really sure, but alright. But he wasn't the same passing the ball after that. And they did kind of get one-dimensional, and Taysom Hill threw 4 picks. Cowboys opportunistic, although if you think about it, if they made that field goal early in the game and after that long late touchdown by Deontay Harris, it would have been a 1-score game, and then who knows, but that's neither here or there. Cowboys get back to 8-4. And then going from one NFC East team to another on Sunday, Giants without Daniel Jones. Jones, his stats was unknown with the neck strain last week. Coming into Miami, it was Mike Glenn the whole way. But Tua, now they moved the ball kind of well, 29, but Tua in the offense keeps getting it done, and the defense is starting to show why it was one of the best defenses in the league last year. It is bulking down, and they did what they needed to do win here. And they've won 5 straight. They're now 6-7 and back in the fold in the AFC playoff hunt. Who knows? But they go into their bye week with full momentum. Good for them. Colts are feeling momentum. It's funny. I picked the Colts to win 31-20. Little did I know that I picked 20 too much points for the Texans. Colts win 31-0. Nothing. Tyrod Taylor was benched in the third quarter. Colts are dangerous. I would not want to face them in the AFC playoffs. I would not. With the way they're rolling, Jonathan Taylor, their own line, that defense is getting better. Carson Wentz is being efficient with the ball. I would not want to face them in the playoffs. Then the biggest story pretty much of, well, it depends how you look at it, but one of the biggest stories of the week, the Lions got their first win of the season. Last second touchdown, 29-27 over the Vikings. You know, the Lions, you knew were due for a win, and the Vikings, their defense is sad. Their defense is sad. They have pretty much lived in close games throughout the whole season, no matter who it is. And I know Vikings fans, and particularly my dad, will probably be pissed and upset about this, but in a way, it's probably a good thing because this loss kind of signifies changes need to be made in Minnesota. Changes need to be made. And that's all I'll say as far as the Vikings aspect, but good for the Lions. Happy for Dan Campbell. Happy for Jared Goff. You know, his first win without Sean McVay as head coach. I will say that. And then Gardner Minshew. Minshew Mania was alive in Meadowlands as the Eagles win 33-18 over the Jets. You know, it was a shootout for a good while. And then eventually the offense of the Jets fizzled out. You know, when your backup kicker misses 2 extra points is concerning. So that probably plays into the mindset, but good for Minshew. Good for Dallas Goedert. They stay alive in the playoff hunt because if they lost this, they might be done in the playoffs. But 6-7 for the Jets, they stay fighting hard, but it just didn't work for a while. Then in cold, windy Chicago, Cardinals win 33-22. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, they return. Although Kyler Murray only threw it 15 times. You know, Andy Dalton had 4 picks. The Cardinals had half a day to run the ball. You know, when they're healthy, and I must say, I feel bad for that guy in the stands who was having trouble with his poncho. But nonetheless, Cardinals get their 10th win of the season. They go 10-2. Bears, you know, I just don't know. Next, Chargers, and what was probably my most intrigued game of the day and of the week. Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. Chargers beat the Bengals 41-22. It was 24-0, the Chargers, and then the Bengals were chipping. They were chipping, and it was 24-22. And then when it looked like the Bengals were about to go on a drive to take the lead, boom. Joe makes some fumbles. Chargers take it for a touchdown, and that pretty much opened things back up for the Chargers. Joe Burrow, he banged his pinky, but he stayed in the game. Looks like he won't miss time, but that's the thing to keep an eye on, I will say. And then the Buccaneers, they say improving. They win here 30-17 over the Falcons. Falcons shut out in the second half. Buccaneers, 2 touchdowns for Gronk. Good to see him healthy and scoring again. 15 catches for over 100 yards for Chris Godwin. Good for him as well. Brady, he's 44. And for him to be doing what he's doing is just remarkable. Although he did have that mishap at the end of the first half when he threw a pick six to a lineman. But other than that, a very good day for TB12. And then the Rams certainly covered versus the Jaguars. They won 37-7. They snapped their losing streak. They did what they needed to do. Implementing OBJ back into more into the offense. Cooper Kupp had another great day. And their sights are turned to a collision course with Arizona next Monday night. So intriguing there. And then Washington, for its second straight game, they win 17-15 this time over the Raiders and Las Vegas. Washington on a 4-game win streak. Taylor Heinicke continues to play well. Antonio Gibson running the ball well. Their defense, last year they had arguably the best defense, or one of the best defenses in the league. And we had big expectations for them this season. But the last 4 games, holding their opponents to 21 points or fewer. And no Chase Young. Their defense is really bulking down. Kudos to Jack Del Rio in that defense. But they face the Cowboys on Sunday. Very key matchup. I'll have more on that in a bit, but good for Washington. They go to 6-6. Then we go to a fight to the finish. The Steelers, they won 20-19 over Baltimore. Baltimore is struggling. They have not scored 20 points in the last 4 games. They are struggling on offense. Their offense line has issues. TJ Watt had 3.5 sacks, improves his sack total to 16 on the year. You know, the Steelers, they were reeling a bit, and then coming this game, they just get the win when they need to, and 6-5-1, they are again still alive in the playoffs. And then Seattle's not going to the playoffs, but they still show pride here against their rival 49ers. Seahawks win this 30-23. Obviously, Russell Wilson's best game since coming back from injury. And he looks better now. He looks healthy. And 49ers, they had the chance to win it late, but couldn't capitalize, and they faltered, and they trail 6-6. Although Jimmy G has some really good throws, I will say that. And then ugly game on Sunday night, 22-9, Chiefs win over the Broncos. You know, it's not pretty for the Chiefs, but as we've seen over this win streak, Chiefs defense has been the story of their play. Their offense, you know, still has issues. It's not obviously as explosive as it's been in recent years, but they're getting it done. They're aiming for Broncos. They had opportunities somewhat, but they couldn't capitalize, and hiccups by Teddy Bridgewater, it just didn't look right. What didn't look right, but still a win. Patriots on Monday night in Buffalo. They beat the Bills 14-10. I'm not kidding you. 14-10. I rewatched the highlights because I was out at a game for my school last night, but man, was it windy? Was it? Talk about weather and talk about December football. Patriots only threw the ball 3 times. 3 times. And ran the ball over 40 times. That's some like 20th century shit. Or whichever you want to say. But Damian Harris ran the ball well. Ramondre Stevenson ran the ball well. You know, I said before, and I'll say it again. The Bills are too one-dimensional on offense. They dropped to 7-5. If they need to fix their woes, because in the playoffs, it's the teams that are playing the best, and the Bills are not playing their best. And yes, it was a close game, but they're not doing well. They're not doing well. And their only touchdown was off a punt that nicked N'Keal Harry's helmet, let up a short field touchdown, and that was it. That was their only touchdown of the game. So, yeah. But Patriots defense still stepping up, and best record in the AFC at 9-4. So again, the AFC is still wide open. Excuse me, sorry, but now before I get into my predictions for Week 14, UFC 269 is Saturday. So interesting to look forward to here. Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean O'Malley, opens up the main card against ranked opponent Rolion Paiva. Real interesting test. Sean O'Malley gets a ranked opponent. See how it goes, but I'm picking Sean in this matchup. And then Cody Garbrandt, who, just a couple years ago was on the top of the world in the bantamweight division against Dominic Cruz. He is in the flyweight division. He takes on Kai Kara France, which will be a tough matchup to say the least, but we'll see how that goes. Then we got an interesting fight. Jeff Neal, number 12, versus number 14, Santiago Ponzinibbio. Interesting to look forward here. And then close the main card, we got two top fights. Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena in the co-main event. And then the main event, we got a doozy. Charles Oliveira, the Bronx, defends his lightweight strap. He won over Michael Chandler versus Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Dustin, he won the interim title versus Max Holloway. He fell short versus Khabib. He won the trilogy versus Conor McGregor, which led him to this. It's going to be an interesting fight. Him versus the Bronx. We'll see, but should be fun. Now, getting from that, NFL Week 14. Another week of December football and hopefully more cold football, which I'm expecting. Maybe we can get some snow this weekend, I'm not sure, but that would be an interesting feat for NFL football. Got an interesting game on Thursday. Steelers coming off their last second victory, holding on for the Ravens. They go to Minnesota to play the Vikings, who lost another heartbreaker to the Lions on Sunday. You know, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Vikings defense is sad. Now, their offense has shown the will and the competence to be able to score, but their defense has helped them live through these tight matchups all season. Now, the Steelers aren't a juggernaut, and they only scored 20 points against the Ravens. Now, both teams are kind of similar because they both love to run the ball and operate their passing game off that. Now, Kirk Cousins has obviously done better than Big Ben this year, but, you know, without Dalvin Cook, so both teams are relatively similar on offense. Najee Harris and Alexander Madison. But with TJ Watt playing and with the game he had on Sunday, I just think this is going to be a tight matchup again. You know, the Vikings always have close matchups, and Steelers aren't a juggernaut on offense. I'm going to go 23-19. Steelers win in a tight matchup. So then we got another interesting task on Sunday to start the Sunday games. So Dallas goes to Washington. The first of two matchups between the two. By the way, Minnesota was a 3-point favorite on Thursday. But yeah, I'm taking Steelers. On Sunday, again, so Cowboys 4-point favorites versus Washington. You know, Heineke has played very well during this 4-game win streak. And Tony Gibson has run the ball also well. Their defense has really tightened up the last number of weeks. Again, only holding their opponents 21 points or fewer. Dallas, you know, it didn't look pretty on Thursday versus the Saints. It got done. I just think, you know, we're in for a tight game, and I'm going to Washington 26-24. over Dallas. They get the dub for 5 straight. Then we got Tennessee off a bye versus Jacksonville. Hosting Jacksonville. Titans 9.5-point favorites. Titans, they can get Julio Jones back this week. Good. Still have to look at the stats of Derrick Henry. Again, the updates, but either way, again, Titans offense moved the ball very well. The run game against the Patriots, they just couldn't punch it in. However, 200 yards on the ground. Now, I think this bye week came at a good time because I think Ryan Tannehill can pair up more chemistry with some of his other receivers. Because they still have another week until they can get A.J. Brown back. But more time with his receivers. Defense knows this is a must-win game. So I'm going with Titans here, 24-14. They barely cover, but they cover. So then we got Seattle going to Houston. Seahawks, Russell Wilson showing on Sunday that he's healthy again. That looked the healthiest he has been since coming back from his injury. Against Houston, again, we have said many times this should be a cakewalk for a team, but there's been so much inconsistency this season that you can't be particularly sure. But I'm going with the Seahawks here to win, 7-point favorites. They cover 23-10 in Houston. Then we got a rematch of Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago. Got the Chiefs hosting the Raiders. Chiefs 9.5-point favorites. Chiefs defense has been the story for them throughout this win streak. Their offense has been more chippy than explosive. And yes, there has been miscues and points throughout the Chiefs offense that, yes, you can say, well, if this happened, they can score some more points. But that still proves my point that there's issues still on the offense. So, however, with that defense, Raiders, I think, will keep this close, and they cover, but Chiefs win 24-17. Next, we got the Saints. 5-game losing streak. Going to the Meadowlands to play the Jets. Saints 5.5-point favorites. The Saints need this win. They need this win if they're going to try to make some noise to gear towards the playoffs. And their defense, I still like their defense. Their defense is so very talented. Now, their offense is just a question. You know, will they get their tackles back? Will they get Alvin Kamara back? We'll see. What's the status of Taysom Hill? Not sure, but against this Jets defense, I think it'll be enough to get a needed win and salvage it though. So they get this win 22-14 over the Jets. Next, we got Falcons going to Carolina. Panthers 3-point favorites. You know, Falcons, Cordell Patterson has been the real story for them the last number of games. With the way he's been used as a running back, receiver, etc., playmaker. Panthers fired Joe Brady on Sunday. Now, off a bye week, I expect him to show it, but no Christian McCaffrey. I don't know who's going to start at quarterback. I like what I've seen from the Falcons' offense as of late. So, Cordell Patterson, provided he's healthy, I'm going with the Falcons to win this 24-20. Next, we got the Browns. They host the Ravens, who are reeling, have not scored 20 points in their last 4 games. Obviously, last Sunday night, it was 16-10, and it was ugly in Baltimore. Now it's in Cleveland. Browns 2.5-point favorites. Again, this screams another ugly matchup, but Browns are healthier, and I think they'll take what they learned from that game. And now with no Marlon Humphrey for the rest of the season, I expect that to help the Browns here. So I'm going to go with them 26-21 over Baltimore. Next, we got the Chargers hosting the Giants. Chargers 10.5-point favorites. I think that line is too big. Too big. Yes, I know the Dolphins covered versus the Giants on Sunday, but the Chargers they've been inconsistent. Now, should they win this game? Yes. But the Giants have been tough throughout the season. They're tough, and they can be a nail biter for many teams. Now, I'm going to pick the Chargers to win, but I'm not taking them to cover. That number is too big. I'm going with the Chargers here 24-16. They win over the Giants. Next, we got the Lions off their first win of the season. They go to Denver. Broncos 8-point favorites. You know, the Lions. Okay, so the thing about the Lions is their defense has gotten better over the last number of weeks. Now, yes, they gave up 27 points to the Vikings, but their defense has looked good at times this season. Teddy Bridgewater and the now if DeAndre Swift was healthy for this game, I probably have a second thought about this, but Broncos are healthy. They're still fighting for something at 6-6. So I'm going with the Broncos here. 28-21. So they don't Lions cover, but Broncos win by a touchdown. So then we got one of the key matchups of the week. San Fran 6-6, now going to Cincinnati 7-5. Bengals 1-point favorites at home. You know, Jimmy G looked well versus the Seahawks. Despite losing at the end. And, good to hear that Trent Cannon, after that ugly injury, seems to be okay. For the Bengals, now Deebo Samuel's status is going to be questioned. The Bengals, Joe Burrow, he looks to be still going to play through his pinky injury. Joe Mixon, he looked banged up, although he stayed in the game against the Chargers. Right now, I'm going with the more healthy team. This is a head scratcher. But I'm going to go with the Bengals to win this head scratcher. But the Bengals win this tight one 23-21. Or actually, this can be 23-21. So Bengals obviously cover, and they win. Then we got a great game for the afternoon. Should be Sunday Night Football, but it's not. Bills off that ugly game versus the Patriots. Short week going to Tampa to play Tom Brady and the I almost said Patriots, the Buccaneers. This is gonna be fun. You know, Bills, they need to run the ball. I already said it earlier. They need to run the ball if they're gonna have a chance, not only in this game, but in the playoffs. Tampa has shown they can run when they want to, and they can throw it with Tom when they want to. So I'm going with Tampa in this 37-28. Then we got Sunday Night Football. The oldest rivalry in the books. Packers in Lambeau. They host the Bears. Packers 11.5-point favorites. You know, of course, last time in Chicago, Aaron Rodgers said, I still own you. I still own you. Now, the status of Justin Fields is going to be in question. But Packers are looking to cement themselves in the NFC. Chicago, I know they're probably still fighting for pride. We'll have to see who's starting at quarterback, but this could be an ugly game, but 27-17, Packers win. Next, a great way to end Week 14. Cardinals, after getting their 10th win this season, they host the Rams, who got back on track versus the Jags. Cardinals 3-point favorites. You know, this was a clinic by the Cardinals, the first game, and so 5. Now, Rams against the Jaguars, it looked like they implemented more OBJ. Cooper Kupp had another solid day. You know, Kyler Murray only had to pass 15 times. DeAndre Hopkins is back. Rams need this. I'm going with the Rams in the upset. They win this 23-20. I don't know, this just feels like a tight like a strange game, but the Rams need this, and I would not be upset either way, but I'm saying the Rams need this, and because to get swept by the Cardinals, that's a tough task, but we'll see. But those are my predictions for Week 14. Should be another solid week of football, but anyway, that's the episode for you guys. So thank you for joining me on this, again, another episode of Sports Movie Topics. One note, so for my followers who watch my pro wrestling AEW reviews, there was no Rampage review on Saturday. I tried to upload it, but I had issues with it, so I just left it off. But there will be another AEW Dynamite and Rampage review later this week, and of course I'll be back for sports overview of topics next week, but that's the update. Anyways, thank you for I'll be back next week and later this week. Thank you. Be safe. Peace. Happy holidays.